Well, I think the debate on finance is extremely important for a large developing economy where the fiscal space is limited because the developmental imperatives are paramount. Now, when we want that economy to undertake ambitious climate actions, both on the mitigation and adaptation front, finance becomes a very important enabler as well as constraint. So that is why in all this negotiation process, India has been very vocal about the need for low cost and predictable finance, which will ensure that there is accelerated implementation of both mitigation and adaptation actions on ground. 9.1 is very important because 9.1 talks about that it is mandatory for the developed world to provide finance for the developing countries. So it's not an option. They are not going to lead the you could say curation of finance, but it is mandatory for them to deliver. And that is why this whole mandatory part is extremely important, because that's what they have been kind of shirking against their responsibility and not really trying to give finance the way it should have been given. So that's very important. That's why 9.1 is a lot more important for the developing South as well as India. Yeah. Well, I think it is 80% funded domestically is not really a choice, right? And I think when we say funded, we should differentiate between private finance and public finance. The big ask is actually public finance, because of course private companies and private finance will come in and they will deliver. But what we want is public finance on concessional terms as well as which is predictable in nature. Given all that, I think even though a lot of what India is doing currently, especially on adaptation, is through its own budget, the ask is that it should be delivered by the developed world, because they have been historically responsible and they have put the developing world into this situation. And that's why the developing world is asking for a lot more finance than what is being actually given by the developed world, and not in terms of private finance but public finance. I think that is very, very important. Yeah. Well, under finance there are many, many channels, and one of the channels is carbon market, which is international carbon market. Earlier it was CDM under the Kyoto Protocol, now it is Article 6. But carbon markets under the UN have been you could say the one big channel of finance, and which has successfully delivered. And along with finance, it has also led to technology transfer that has happened. So that is why Article 6.4 and both 6.2, they both become very important. 6.4 is a more centralized architecture. A lot of it which was finalized in the last COP. Now I think the stage is where moving from all this, you could say, this creation of the institutional architecture, now we want to move to the delivery. And for delivering on ground, now the next step should be countries start thinking about the core methodologies in terms of how do we actually get methodologies devised and finalized. So once those things are done, then projects will be developed which are aligned with those particular methodologies in specific sectors. And then through that, once projects are developed, then money will start flowing in through Article 6.4 route. It's a very important development. Carbon markets are a very important part of the story. And I think it's a great development under Article 6.4 that happened last year. Now we need to build upon it. Yeah. So the big four issues that are being discussed at this COP, which are not on the formal agenda, but they are being discussed under the presidency's consultation process. They are the unilateral trade measures, which is one. Second is about finance, the Baku to Belém roadmap and how do we deliver on it. The third is on NDC, and the fourth is on BTR. So biennial transparency report. So these are the four big issues. I think what is very interestingly happening, that a lot of chatter, a lot of discussions among many stakeholders are actually not on the items that are being discussed on the agenda. It is around these four. So what does it show? It shows that there was tremendous demand in the larger stakeholder set about discussion on these items. And unfortunately, in the last few COPs and the intersessionals, even though the developing world wanted to discuss these things, they were not being adopted in the agenda. There was no space given. I think this is a very important step that the Brazilian presidency has actually undertaken, was to create a formal space. So even though these are not as a part of the formal agenda, it is still a formal space within the process where parties can actually talk about these things and discuss various positions. What do they actually want different parties to do, the process to deliver on. So a space has been given, and that's a very, very important development. And that is why very interesting discussions are happening on this platform, and that's why, as I said, it's these big four issues that are being talked about a lot more than what is happening on the formal agenda.